Welcome to Hands On. I'm Alana. I work at the Innovation Cluster as the Operations and Events Manager. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Innovation Cluster, we're a not-for-profit organization that works with startups working specifically in technology. But with that being said, all of our events and workshops, such as this one, are open to the public. If you note on your screen, there is also a bunch of partners and members of the Team PTPO group, which we are a part of. So again, thank you for joining this virtual hands-on marketing strategies for startups during COVID-19. We're lucky enough to have my colleague, Rose Terry, facilitating this workshop. She is the marketing manager and senior innovation specialist at the Innovation Cluster. So today she's going to be going over a few things. So how to create a marketing plan for an uncertain future, reevaluating and understanding your target market, understanding share of wallet during COVID-19, creating your marketing message, advertising on a budget, recognizing growth opportunities. So after the presentation, Rose is going to do a Q&A. I will be reading the questions and she will be doing the answering. When that time comes, I'm going to enable the chat feature on your Zoom. And then you can just plug in all your questions there. Also, after this workshop, I'm going to send an email including a survey. So in the survey, you can tell us what you liked about the session, what you didn't like, and what we can work on. So I'm going to hand it over to Rose now.
You cool cats and kittens. How's it going? I'm just right now going to share with you a Google document in the chat. So you guys should have received that link. That is something that I've created for all of you guys today. You don't have to go to it right now, but it's something that you can utilize afterwards, and I'm going to be talking with you a little bit about it after we get started. Okay, are you guys ready? Here we go. So today we are going to talk about, as Lana said, marketing strategies for startups during COVID-19. But these are all tips and tricks as well that you can take into your business moving forward. So I really want you guys to think about it, obviously, as the situation is right now, but I also want you to think about it in the future, because a lot of these strategies are really going to benefit your business as you move forward in it. So it's so nice to see all of your wonderful faces. I'm just looking at everybody right now. I see my mom is here. It's so nice to see all you guys. And I really want to, before I introduce who I am and what I do with the Innovation Cluster, I really just want to take a second to say a couple disclaimers about this and just let you know what this session is going to be like today. So I really want you guys to take this session today, this workshop today, and use it as time for yourself to think about yourself and your business and the marketing strategies within your business, and actually take it to start to think about how you can work better. Because I know that we are running around and trying to do all of these different things, and this is going to be an opportunity for you to kind of take a second, think about what you're working on, be a little bit more gentle and kind with yourself, and we're going to try to help you through what you're going through right now. If you've heard some of this stuff before that I'm going to talk about, I want to challenge you to put a different lens on it this time, okay? So take what I'm talking to you guys about today and look at it a little bit differently if you've heard it before. If you haven't heard any of this information before, this is going to be a lot of information. I usually teach this workshop specifically in 3 hours. And so we're going to try and do it in an hour to an hour and a half today. So I'm going to try to go through everything very quickly. And the other thing that I just want to let you guys know, I am going to be sharing some strategies and tactics and some ideas just to get your brain moving. But every business is different. So there's no kind of blanket strategy that I can give you guys. I want you to take this information. I want you to think about it. I want you to work on your strategy on your own and then start to come up with the tactics, okay? So we're gonna go through everything, but I just wanna make sure that you guys are aware that there's no such thing as a blanket solution for marketing. So This has been up for a while. You guys probably already know a little bit about me, but my favorite thing right now is my new work uniform is professional on top and comfy on the bottom. I am definitely in the office, but I'm still wearing leggings. Okay, let's get right into it, guys. So the first thing that I like to share, this is my favorite quote of all time. Doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. Okay? So I really want you guys to think about that. As business owners or marketers within a business, you tend to know everything there is to know about that business and what you're doing, your products and services. But unless you are communicating that with other people, they do not necessarily know, okay? So sometimes we overlook the fact or take for granted that we know everything that's going on. But I really want you to start to think about your marketing communication strategy and how you're communicating that with the rest of the world or your target audience. Although in your marketing strategy, digital may not be something that you've previously used a lot, or maybe it is something that you've used a lot. I really want you to think about it as an opportunity right now. So I want you to be honest with yourself. Take a look at this diagram. Think about where you fall within this diagram, okay? And this is what I want you guys to start to think about as I go over different digital strategies today. Where exactly do you fall? You might be a beginner, you might be a fashionista, you might be a digerati, you might be conservative. So I want you to look at this diagram and I want you to think about, okay, where exactly do I fall within this spectrum, and where do I need to make improvements in order to move up to the best one, which is the digerati, okay? So I really want you guys to start thinking about this and thinking about how you can integrate digital into your business so that it just becomes a part of what you do, so that it's almost like you don't even have to think about it eventually, okay? This is another way of looking at that diagram, and I want you guys to think about this as well. So this relates to your digital capability as far as you being, you know, 1, a beginner, which is right here, okay, or all the way up to 5, which is optimized. So for example, as a beginner, you don't have any strategy, you don't have any key performance indicators, you're not necessarily measuring your analytics, things like that. You don't necessarily have management buy-in, so your other team members. Maybe you don't have the specific skills to carry out what you're working on. Maybe you know, you're not actually keeping track of your data. Or you don't have like a customer relationship management tool, no database, or maybe you're not integrated with your customer communications, or your website's not integrated. Those are the types of things that you want to think about. Where do I fall here, and how can I start to improve to get up to 5, okay? That's where we want to go. So I want you guys to look at this right now. Spend a second with it. Do I fall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? This is where I want you to kind of mentally figure out, okay, where am I right now and how can I get up to 5? And if you're at 5, that's awesome. Congratulations. Okay. And we will record this session, so you guys can always come back to this as well, okay? So welcome to your life now, okay? You are the modern marketer. Okay, you are part artist and you are also part scientist. So what you do now is all of these different things that you guys see here on your screen, okay? So you are going to be in charge of written content, you're going to be in charge of visual assets, you're going to be in charge of social media, email marketing, performance tracking, operations, analytics, campaign performance. All of these different things are what you do as a modern marketer. Okay, and or you have people on your team that are doing that for you, okay? So I just want you guys to be aware. This is what the modern marketer looks like. It's fun, right? So marketing, what is it? Well, when it is done well, it's the strategy of the business. So the value proposition, the go-to market strategy, the brand positioning and image to the world. When it's not done well, it can feel just like an endless checklist, which is a lot of the time when my clients come to me and are like, oh my gosh, what should I be doing? A lot of the time they feel bogged down by this endless checklist, but I want to help you guys to find ways that it doesn't feel that way, okay? So we're going to talk about that a little bit today as well. So this is just a little agenda for us to go through today, and these cover kind of the learning objectives. So creating a marketing plan for an uncertain future, reevaluating and understanding your target market, share of wallet during COVID-19, creating your marketing message, advertising on a budget, and recognizing growth opportunities, okay? So, okay, so I want to start with this one, the first one here, which is creating a marketing plan for an uncertain future. So you guys will have seen, sorry, I'm just switching screens for a second. You will have seen, I shared with everyone this document. You don't have to go to it right now. I just want to show you, this is the marketing communications plan template that I have shared with you. A lot of my clients will probably already have this, okay? But what I want you to do is actually take the time to work through this based on the new situation, the current situation that's happening, because it's different now, okay? So if you already have a marketing plan, that's great, but you need to update it and it needs to be relevant to what's happening now because everything has changed, okay? And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how everything has changed, but you do want to go through and fill out this document. You'll also notice, just to try to help you guys out, I've also included some questions to help you with your brand strategy. I've included a digital content checklist for you and some different tech solutions that can help you when you're going through your marketing, as well as some local resources here, okay? So, okay, so let's get back into the presentation here. So marketing planning. So what I want you guys to really think about now is your situational analysis. So take yourself outside and look in. So what you thought you knew before, you do not know anymore. So where are you now that things have changed in terms of your product, your market, the customer, and your competition? These are all things that you really need to start thinking about, okay? So you can do a SWOT analysis on that. The marketing plan that I have shared with you guys does have different sections for you to fill these kinds of information in. Oh, sorry, my computer is being a little slow here and I don't know why. So all customers will likely have new questions. So for example, these are some potential questions, but this is going to be different for every business. So can I use your product remotely? Will delivery times be the same? What if your business closes? I know these are things that we don't want to think about necessarily, but these are things that our customers are thinking about. So you need to start thinking about, okay, how is my customer viewing this now? Because this is real, right? And this is thoughts that are going through potentially your customer's head right now. And another thing that you definitely want to think about when you're doing marketing moving forward is you don't want to look like you're ignoring COVID-19, but you also don't want to look like you're cashing in on it. As marketers, you need to be really cautious and careful of that. So that's just something that I want to make sure that you guys are thinking about when you're creating your marketing. So when we start to think about marketing planning and when you're starting to go through that document and fill out that document, you have to start thinking along the lines of, okay, what may have worked before very likely will not work moving forward, or it will work, but it needs tweaks. So you have to start realizing that you can start making these changes now if you haven't already done it. And you need to be really flexible. And guys, remember, we can do this, okay? For those of us that have been around for a while and have witnessed the, digital disruption that's happened before, moving from, marketing with more traditional forms of media and moving into digital marketing, this has happened before. This is just happening at a more accelerated rate. So we can do this. This is possible. You just have to start thinking about it and start planning for it, okay? So you want to focus moving forward on data and not fear. So the biggest piece that I want you guys to take away from this workshop today is that it's going to be in your analytics. It's going to be in your data. That's where you're going to be able to see where the changes need to be made. And I really want you to think about your marketing strategy in terms of it being an integrated marketing strategy, because it really needs to be unified and seamless for your customer base across the board. So when you think about your marketing strategy, it has to take into consideration every aspect. So including public relations, including direct marketing. So, you know, if you are doing mail pieces, or if you are doing deliveries, social media, all of those things, they need to be seamless, okay? I also want you guys to start thinking about setting clear objectives, and your objectives might be a little bit different than what they were before, but you need to set them. Like, we need to start thinking about SMART goals and ensure that they are measurable and that you can actually keep track of them, because it's really important. So these are just some examples of clear objectives. I also wanted to show you, this is actually a sample that I like to share with my clients a lot of the time. This is for Honda Civic Hybrid, but it just kind of gives you an idea of what your marketing plan can look like, what advertising objectives can look like, what kind of research you should be doing in order to back up your marketing plan. Okay, because research is very important. So I just wanted to share this with you guys. And again, this is going to be recorded. So Alana will be sharing with you the full recording. So if you guys want to go back and pause this so you can take a look at this slide, you're more than welcome to do that. So the other thing that I really want to point out is the difference between strategy and tactics, because there is a big difference, guys. You need to come up with your strategy before you start implementing tactics, okay? So your strategy is your plan. That's why we do marketing planning. And you need to come up with your strategy first. And then once you're done coming up with your strategy, then we can start exploring tactics and, okay, what can I do in order to make this strategy work and be successful and hit my objectives? So I really want you guys to think about that as well when you're going through your marketing planning. The next piece that I want you to also think about is the 4 Ps. For those of you that are marketers or in business, you probably already know this. The 4 Ps are product, place, price, and promotion. I've heard lots of different versions of this. I know that there are lots of different versions of this, but I like this one. And I want you guys to start rethinking your 4 Ps, because a lot of these things may have changed, okay? And a lot of these things may have to change within your business. And just as an example, I don't know if there are any restaurant owners out there, but for example, you may need to start switching up your product offerings. Maybe you can't order as much stock now, so you need to have a more condensed menu. And obviously people are not going into your place of business anymore to order food. So now you need to think about pickup options and how that's going to work, or delivery options. Maybe your pricing needs to change. Maybe you need to increase your pricing based on this new strategy, or decrease. And then promotion also needs to change as well. Maybe you were used to doing a lot of promotion within your place of business, and now you need to think about, how can I promote to reach my customers since they're not coming into the business anymore. So that's just one example, but please guys, think about these things and how they relate to you when you are doing your marketing strategy, because you do need to start rethinking these things. So for some of you, these things may not change. Maybe some of your promotions might change. Maybe your pricing might adjust based on your target market. But these are things that you definitely want to think about moving forward. I also want you to think about when you do start going into implementing your tactics, understanding that there's a huge difference between features and benefits. And primarily your target market is going to purchase benefits over features. So this is just an example of an umbrella. Okay, we've got the umbrella's features, so the things that you can see, touch, feel: cloth, wood, unbreakable. And then its benefits is obviously that it shields from the sun and the rain. So people generally buy things based on their benefits. Although features can be perks, you really want to start thinking about, okay, how am I selling these benefits to my customer base? Okay, next we have reevaluating and understanding your target market, because this is super important. And your target market may have changed, or maybe they didn't, but they may have, for you, maybe the target market has not changed, but maybe internally and psychographically they have changed. So this is really important, this piece, guys. So if anything, I want you to start thinking about this very strongly today. So defining your target market, huge thing. If you try to market to everyone, you'll end up marketing to no one. Okay, so you really need to start thinking, okay, who is my primary market? Because with an 80-20 rule, generally, it's 80% of your business is going to come from 20% of your customers. So who are those 20%? And how are you going to talk to them? And how are we going to look at our customers now when it comes to thinking about demographics versus psychographics? Because arguably during COVID-19 and everything that's happening, psychographics are going to be more important than ever, okay? And just for those of you that don't know what the difference between psychographics and demographics are the things that you can see, touch, feel about a person. So that has to do with their age, sex, location, their job, their annual salary, things like that, okay, has to do with their demographics. When it comes to their psychographics, this has more to do with the person and how they feel about themselves, what their goals are, and you know, their mental state and how they see themselves within the world, okay? So arguably, I would say psychographics are coming into play more than ever now. So a lot of the times when I'm working with clients at the Innovation Cluster and talking to them about defining their target market, which you definitely want to do, and that may be like an age range and things like that. I do find, though, that a very helpful thing to do is to define who your perfect customer is. So who is the person when you're focusing on your primary market, and you can do this with your secondary market as well, but with your primary market, can you create a profile of that person? Can you draw a picture of them, for example? Like, this is a fun little exercise that we can do, especially when we're doing marketing planning. And can we start to put a name to them? Can we start to think about their personality? Okay, so this is just an example. This is Karen, okay, guys? So this is her profile, but you guys can go into way more depth than this. I just wanted to give you an example, you know, of what Karen is up to. Okay, so you can see her demographic profile there. You can see her psychographic profile. You do need to think about what are the impacts on Karen during COVID-19. How is she experiencing this? And what are the changes that this has made to her life? Okay, these are all things that you really, really need to start thinking about, because you want to show up for Karen. Okay, if Karen's your target market, you need to be showing up for her. Okay, so start to think about that. Start to, if you want to, honestly, it sounds silly, but like, draw your perfect customer and start to create a profile for them and start to create a personality for them, because that is going to help you when you are starting to implement some of those strategies. But the strategy is going to be built around your target market. So it really has to come from there, guys. This is just a fun little tidbit. This is a really important reason why you have to understand psychographics. So you have to know your market, because when typed into Google in Mexico, my pregnant wife, it pops up poems for my pregnant wife, words of love for my pregnant wife. When you type it in the States, my wife is pregnant, what do I do? My pregnant wife, now what? And when you type it in the UK, my pregnant wife hates me, my pregnant wife is so mean. I can see Joanne Yeah, I can see Joanne giggling a bit. But these are all things that you need to think about because psychographics do make a difference. And, you know, culturally, that also makes a difference. So you have to start thinking about these things, okay? Next, we are going to talk about the share of wallet during COVID-19, which is another very important piece of your marketing strategy. And I want you guys to wrap your heads around this idea. So for those of you that don't know what share of wallet means, it's the dollar amount that your average customer regularly devotes to a particular brand rather than to a competing brand in the same product category, okay? So when you start to think about my target market and who they are and who I'm speaking to and all of those kinds of things, you want to also think about, okay, what piece of their wallet do I occupy? That's super, super, super important moving forward because people are holding on to their dollars more tightly now, or most are, okay? So most target markets are, but again, research is going to help with this. And you guys just got a new competitor. The new competitor is Community. As you may or may not have noticed, people, you know, really want to help people who are in their own backyard. So really start to think about that when you're developing your marketing strategy. People are starting to think, okay, why am I spending this dollar? Who am I spending it with? What greater good will me spending this dollar serve, right? And consumer habits are already changing. And once these habits start to become more ingrained, they may, you know, they may change for a very long time, if not forever. So you really want to start thinking about these things and how they will affect your business. Okay. And another piece is here is you want to let your customers get to know you and your staff so they understand who will be impacted by their dollar. So live videos and authentic content can really help with this. And I really encourage you guys when you start to implement your tactics, after you've filled out your strategy, you want to start thinking about, okay, how can I start to show them who their dollar is actually impacting, right? Okay, for those of my clients that have seen this before, you guys are gonna love this because I have actually broken it out into a little bit more detail for everybody. This is one of my favorite things to share with everyone, and I learned this from one of my marketing professors named Al Mastromartino. He called it Al's Stairway to Heaven, which is a little nod to Led Zeppelin, if you know them. And we want your brands to get up the stairway all the way to heaven, right? That's what we want to do. So I'm going to explain to you guys how this works. And this is tried true and it does work. So I want you to really start thinking about this and how you can implement this into your brand business, okay? And into your marketing strategy. So we start down at awareness, trial, purchase, repurchase, brand preference, brand loyalty, and heaven is brand insistence. That's where we want to be, okay? So these are the different things that you can do to make your way up the stairway. So we started awareness, and if you're a startup, every startup is going to start at awareness, okay? And unfortunately, the awareness piece is very expensive. And there's not really a lot of avoiding that, but if you are in a building awareness, there are different things that you can do to do that on a budget. I'm going to give you guys some examples for tactics at the end of this workshop series. The next step is trial, and this is really important because especially when you are marketing digitally, you definitely want to find different and unique ways to induce trials. So you can do free limited trials. You can do samples, you can, anything that you can do to reduce risk to the consumer because, you know, people may, some people are really good at being early adopters and some are not. So you really want to think about how can I reduce that risk for them? Then your customer will move into the purchase piece on the stairway, okay? So these are all things that you can do, discounts, points, referral programs, freebies, gift with purchase. The biggest thing, and this is one thing that I always see businesses missing, and I wish that everyone knew this, is you have to start thinking about how can I communicate urgency. I'm going to have some information on how you can do that as well, but expiry dates can be a really big factor for that. So if you are doing discount codes or something, you probably want to use an expiry date to communicate urgency. You can do gift cards, and if you're doing impulse buys, you want to kind of place them close to your checkout, or you can place them close to very high demand items. So if you know you have a product that sells really easily and quickly and you want to get that upsell, okay, I'm going to place my upsell product close to my high demand product. And then from purchase and repurchase is where, you know, a lot of people get stuck, and this is where I really want to make sure that you guys are taking the time to figure out how you're going to make this happen, because you want that customer to create a purchase habit. So it's fine if they purchase once, but we want them to purchase again. So you need to think about, how am I going to nurture that second purchase? Can you do a VIP program? Can you do a membership? Can you do exclusive discounts for loyal customers? Or are you able to do some retargeting to induce that next purchase? These are all things that you want to start thinking about, because usually that's where businesses get stuck. They may get a first purchase, but you definitely need to start creating that habit. And then as you work your way up the stairway, honestly, guys, it gets cheaper and cheaper for you to do this, okay? Because eventually your customers, once you get up to brand insistence, they love you, right? And they are the ones shouting your name from the rooftops and telling all of their friends, and they become your marketing, which is amazing. So you want to, you know, make sure that you are doing all of these pieces to move them up the stairway. And I'm going to talk a little bit about funnels and how to do that later on. And I realize we don't have that much longer, so I am going to try to move through this quickly, but as I said, Alana is going to send you guys the recording afterward. So brand preference as well, just so you guys are aware. For example, brand preference is like if I were to go into the store and I know that I love Colgate, and Crest is sitting next, Colgate toothpaste, and Crest is sitting next to the Colgate on the shelf. When compared to other equally price available options, I'm always going to pick Colgate. However, if I go into the store and Colgate's not there and Crest is there, even though I have a preference for Colgate, I'm going to pick up Crest, okay? So that's kind of how you guys can wrap your head around brand preference, is people will, when compared, choose that brand. However, if it's not available, they're okay with getting another brand. But when it comes to brand insistence, and this is actually real life, I'm brand insistent when it comes to Apple products, okay? So if a store does not carry Apple product, like a phone or a laptop, I'm going to another store. Okay, I will not purchase anything other than Apple product. So you really want to start thinking about, okay, how am I going to get my customers there where they are choosing me, only me? Okay, so that's Al's Stairway to Heaven. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is another example of a funnel. So this is how your customers could potentially move through a funnel. I talk about funnels a lot with my clients. They're probably used to me saying funnel, funnel, funnel. And I'm going to make sure that you guys have an understanding of how am I going to get my customer from the top of the funnel, okay, where you get your leads, down to the bottom of the funnel. So it goes from awareness to consideration to decision to purchase, and then you have your sales, right? But a lot of the time you guys will notice that this image over here on the right, that all these scribbles, even though your customer, like, you'd love them to take this beautiful, nice looking funnel, typically it doesn't look like that. It's going to look crazy. But you have to understand how you're moving them through that, okay? So these are just some ideas on how to nurture your customers through the funnel. So introducers will build awareness and introduce your audience to your brand. You're not just asking for the sale right now. Then influencers will start to educate the user and can have an influence on their decisions. So these types of like influencers can be in-market display or CRM remarketing, things like that. Closers, this is where you are going to think about how you're going to leverage conversion optimization. So SEO, pay-per-click, remarketing, all of those things. And then eventually you are going to move your customers down all the way to where they're spending their money with you, right? The sale. And this is where you start to think about, okay, how am I going to increase the value of that customer? Because is there a way for me to upsell them, right? Is there a way for when I'm thinking of the share of wallet, is there a way, for example, if your customer spends $10 every time with you, is there a way for you to increase that to $15 or $20? Okay, how are we going to do that? This is another example of a funnel. This one is more directed to anyone that's on here that is working with something that is more high ticket, like a more high ticket item. Because generally you have a lot more of a hands-on process when it comes to moving your customers through the funnel. So for example, it could be them, touching you through the website, then they become a returning visitor. These are all the things that they want to know on the other side there, okay? Then as they come through the funnel, they may do an email opt-in off your website. Maybe they've checked out your website a couple times. Maybe you have a pop-up come up on your website that, has a call to action saying, join my email list, right? Then once they're into your email list, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later as well, you want to start doing some lead nurturing, okay? So you've gathered your lead and now you want to start thinking about how am I going to move them further and further down that funnel. Then potentially you have an inquiry where maybe they're like, okay, I see value in what you're doing and I want you to address me specifically and how you can support me. So maybe you then have a sales call with them, okay? And then you start to go through answering these different questions. And then sales call number 2 is where they're saying yes and you guys are signing an agreement. That could be potentially for a more high ticket item. Okay, so I hope you guys all understand funnels before I move on to the next thing and how important they are. And I want you to, once we are finished with this workshop today, I want you to start thinking about the funnels within your business and start implementing those and ensuring that your customers are participating in that funnel, okay? So they're starting up here as a lead, and as they move their way down, and obviously, there's going to be a certain ratio as they move their way down, and you can also, keep track of that in your analytics and start to understand how many leads you need to get in order to get a sale. But you really need to start thinking about, okay, how are they coming in at the top of the funnel, and how am I moving them through the funnel so that they come down and then we get money at the end, okay? Okay, next we're moving on to creating your marketing message. I love this part. This is, this is after you guys have worked on your strategy, okay? So strategy first, this comes next. So branding, if your brand could speak, I want you to take a couple seconds to think about what it would say. What would your brand say if it could speak? What would its voice sound like? These are the types of things I want you guys to start thinking about, because your brand is important. And although in some cases your brand is you, your brand is also separate from you. So what would your brand say if it could speak? What would it sound like? These are all things you want to start thinking about when it comes to your branding. If you already have branding, we're going to talk a little bit about how your branding might, you want your branding to definitely be the same if you already have a brand, especially if you have a historical brand, unless you need to rebrand. But You really want to keep your branding the same so people recognize you, they feel comfortable with you, all of that kind of good stuff. But you want to start thinking about, okay, if I need to maybe change my tone a little bit to suit my customer and now what they're dealing with. I do want you guys to remember to always be consistent. I see a lot of brands that are great with being consistent with their fonts that they use and their colors of their branding. Just make sure that you're always being consistent as well with your value proposition. You may have, you know, something new to offer to your target market, but you do want to be consistent in what your value proposition is, okay? So always keep coming back to that mission statement and what you mean and all of that good stuff. You also want to think about, and this is in the worksheet that I gave you guys, so you can work on this on your own time, okay? I'm just gonna explain it to you, but you wanna start to think about your tone. So what your tone of voice is, what the brand's personality is, and what the set of values are. And you also wanna think about these examples that I have on the side are just examples, but what are some words that describe what your tone is? So are you professional, empowering, sleek, urban, organic, active, fashionable, fun? Like there's so many different things that you can be as a brand, but you really need to start to think about these things and understand them and define them now. So, you know, if you are going to be growing as a business, once you give this beautiful strategy that you've created to, you know, an employee or something, and they're going to be carrying out some pieces of this for you, can they fully understand exactly what it is that you want your business to convey? So these are just some questions. These questions are actually in that worksheet that I gave you guys. So I really do want you to, once we're finished this, go through what's your brand position and voice, what's important to your brand. Think about what your community is interested in when they aren't actually talking about your brand. So what is it that your community thinks about outside of you? Because they're not just thinking about, I wish they were, but they are not thinking about you all day long. Unfortunately, they are thinking about other things. So what are the other things that your target market thinks about? If you have content testing, what has worked in the past, but you do need to start doing some content testing moving forward, because I think you will find a lot of the case that we're seeing now, even with Innovation Cluster, things that we've done in the past may not work now. So you have to start thinking, okay, I need to look at my analytics since COVID-19, and I need to start thinking about what content I need to start using moving forward. Search behavior, it's another really important thing. What are people typing into Google? Like, what are they asking Google to look for them for when they're looking for you? So, you know, are they typing in what businesses are open in Peterborough, for example, if you're in Peterborough? These are types of things that you need to start thinking about, and you need to start showing up in those places, okay? And you need to start thinking about how has the search behavior changed, because it has changed. So really what they may have been typing in before may have changed. So you need to start thinking about those things as well, and then tone, obviously. Okay, this is just some tips and tricks, some of my favorite tips and tricks for creating urgency when you are working with your customers. So you're going to see right now up on my screen that I've given you guys an example, okay, of how you can create urgency, but I've also on the other side here given you some other examples. So here you may see an example of a countdown for a daily deal. Okay, that is a way of creating urgency. Countdowns are great for creating urgency. Also, if you shift down too, you'll see that they've also created urgency by saying, we have one left. Okay, so that also creates urgency. So let's start to think about in our business, how are we creating urgency around people using our product or service? And this is really important because you know, people are definitely busy still, but they're at home, and how are you going to create that urgency for them if they're at home? So different things that you can use: countdown timers, limited availability. You can use, you know, language around how it's a new product or service. Discounts are always great. If you are going to do a discount, please make sure that you make it a limited time offer. That's really important. Personalization can also help with urgency. Any of the language that you use. You don't want to scare people though, guys. So just make sure if you're conveying urgency that you're doing it in a way that suits the tone of your brand. Payment options can help, especially in financially challenging times. So do think about that if you do have a higher ticket item. Remarketing and pop-up offers can also help to create urgency. And one tip that I have for integrating into your website is investigate different plugins that you can use on your website to help create urgency. So maybe when your customers, for example, are in the checkout cart, maybe you have some sort of expiry on how long they need to actually check that item out. Things like that can actually help to push your customers along to purchase. Okay, advertising on a budget. So before I move on to this one, I just want to say all of those different questions that I went through with you guys on working on your brand and your marketing message, those are included in that document that I shared with you. So please take a moment when you're done this workshop to work on that and make sure that you've answered all of the questions there. So advertising on a budget, I just want to give a little disclaimer about this before I move forward, is that not all of these tactics that I'm going to share with you are going to work for you. It really depends on your business. It does. It depends on your business and it depends on your target market. So please don't just take these tactics and be like, okay, I'm going to use this. Make sure you do your strategy first and then see if the tactics fit. Okay. So today I'm focusing on a digital strategy. That does not mean in any way, shape, or form that traditional media or traditional ways of reaching your customers won't necessarily work. And I'll explain that in a second, but I am going to focus a little bit heavier on digital strategy because I think that's what people are needing. It sounds to me like people are needing a little bit more these days. So, I mean, there is a lot of value to advertising digitally. You can obviously be very pointed when you are targeting. So personalization of targeting is huge. You can be agile and fast. There's immediacy, measurement, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but digital advertising can be much less expensive. And the digital strategy, when you guys are working on your strategy, you have to start thinking about the who, what, when, and where of listening and responding to consumers, bridging brand experiences, iterating offers, and collecting and activating consumer relationships in order to accomplish an actionable, and I have highlighted, measurable objective, okay? We really want to focus on that. If I can hit anything home for you guys today, it is that please do not post anything aimlessly. There needs to be a goal attached to everything that you're doing. So here are some myths about digital advertising. All traffic is good traffic. That is not true. We, even as the innovation cluster now, are seeing, an increase in followers on social media, which is great. You guys should all follow us on social media. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all of those followers are going to convert. So please remember that not all traffic is good traffic, okay? You might have 10,000 followers, but that doesn't mean that all of those people are buying. I'm not saying don't make that a goal. I'm just saying you have to remember that not all traffic is good traffic. digital equals immediate ROI. It does not, but there are definitely things that you can do to help with your return on investment. Another myth is digital doesn't work for B2B. Not true. Digital can be great for B2B. So if you are a business selling to another business, digital advertising can still be a great way of doing that. Another myth is you need to capitalize on every channel. You do not, guys. You really need to research the channels and the platforms that you're using and make sure that they make sense. So don't go getting every platform under the sun, because it's going to be overwhelming for you, I promise. Email is dead. It is not dead, and I'm going to talk about email marketing a little bit more. The funnel is dead. You guys already know my feelings about the funnel. Funnel's not dead. Myths part 2, digital primarily matters only to technology and B2C companies. It does not, guys. It especially during COVID-19, digital is important for everyone. So if you're behind, you need to start working on moving that needle forward, okay? The next thing is, if we do enough digital initiatives, we will get there. Again, no aimless posting. Let's start thinking about our strategy, start thinking about our goals, and start actually posting with purpose, okay? That's it for my myths. Email lists. Okay, so your email list is your gold. It is gold, guys. If you already have an email list, good for you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Okay. If you don't have an email list, this is your signal to start doing it now. Okay. Email marketing is more powerful than ever now. So you need to make sure that you have an email marketing strategy. Okay. So when you are starting to actually push out your emails to people, make them easy to skim, make them very clear and concise. There's also, and I've included a lot of different options for you guys within that guide that I sent to you, that document. But we use MailChimp at the Innovation Cluster. They have a lot of great tools to automate and to help move your customers through the funnel, okay? So like even something as nice as when they sign up for your email list, you could have a beautiful little automation that welcomes them to your email list, okay? So start to think about this automation and how to implement it. You also want to follow best practices for subject lines, and when you're writing emails, there's a lot of information out there, guys. Like you can really honestly go to Google and type in how to write the best email subject line, and it will pop up with lots of different tips and tricks. So I'm going to save that for you guys to go look into. But another thing is you can do a lot of primary research through your email list. So if you already have a lot of customers on your email list, now is your opportunity to send them a survey and be like, hey, I know COVID-19 is happening. How is it impacting you? What would you like to see more of? Things like that, right? It can really make a difference. Remember that your average open rate is 15 to 25%. If you're higher than that, then congratulations. But you should be able to automate within your email system to resend your email to those who haven't read it. If you have a lot of emails, you might be able to monetize your data. Something to think about also for other opportunities for your business. And the biggest thing is, you know, I make a point of checking in on the analytics on our email lists weekly. So make a point to look at your analytics. When we start to go into digital marketing, and I'm going to kind of move a little bit faster, guys, because we're getting close to 1 and I know you guys are all busy. So I'm just going to move through the rest of this stuff really quick, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So identify the platform that suits your target market. This is also in the document that I shared with you. All of these platforms have different types of people that spend a lot of their time on it. So, you know, Facebook may not be the best place for you, or maybe it's the best place for you, but you really have to understand your target market before you choose these platforms. And generally I recommend, if you're one person, one human show right now, you know, it can be really difficult to manage more than like 3 on your own. So like usually I say like pick 2 or 3 or 4 that kind of are relevant to you, but do some research as to what the demographics are of the people that are actually spending time on these platforms. Content is king. So what we're seeing during COVID-19 is the cost per impression on Facebook ads has dropped substantially, even though traffic has gone up. Okay, so we're also seeing with news sites that traffic has gone up, but the advertiser interest is moderate right now. So what that means for you is, if you have a budget right now that you can spend on marketing, you will probably get a lot more bang for your buck right now. That's just what it is. So if you have a budget and you've done your strategy and you understand what you want to do and you have your goal set in place, you might be able to start spending some money in your digital advertising so you can start seeing an ROI. I've already talked to you about this as well, but this is just a digital example of potentially what it would look like for a customer to move through a digital funnel. So maybe they start with a social display click, then maybe you know, they come up with one of your generic paid searches, then maybe they do an organic search. There could be a brand paid search, and then maybe they get an email from you, and then they end in your cart. Usually people are going to be interacting with your brands or having a touch point with your brand, you know, 7 times before they actually end up purchasing. Okay, you want to be useful. So these are just some statistics about what happens when users go to your website or your app and they don't see what they're looking for right away. You know, people, if they don't see what they're looking for, they're going to leave, or they will never come back again, or they'll go to your competitor. So start to think about how I'm going to optimize my website, my platforms, all of that kind of stuff to make sure that it's useful right off the hop. Another way that you can be useful is to think about, okay, how can I start focusing on building my brand awareness? For example, if I can't sell my product right now, you can do things like photo contests. You can talk about things that people can dream about now and do later. So for example, if you are an airline company or you're in, you know, the tourism industry and you can't actually do stuff like that right now, you want to focus on, you know, what can people start dreaming about, because people do miss that kind of stuff. And you don't need to avoid marketing entirely. But if you can sell your product right now, you want to start thinking about softer forms of cultural marketing, maybe playing with, you know, the isolation theme. And, you know, if your brand is to be more fun and bubbly and friendly, maybe you can start, you know, playing with isolation a little bit. But you don't need to specifically reference COVID-19 all the time. I do think that, you know, sometimes people are kind of sick and tired of hearing it. So just one thing to keep in mind. So a major key is, what do consumers want to learn about your category, product, or services? I really want you guys to think about that, because that should be the first thing that pops up when they go to your webpage. Content, okay? So thinking about content, these are all of the different pieces that you want to think about, but my main call out for you guys, and I see this all the time, is businesses forget to put in a call to action. And I want you guys to know, if you're not putting in a call to action, your customers don't know what to do. Like, they just don't. If you're not saying, go to my website, or purchase this, or tap the link in my bio, or like this post, or comment on this post, they just do not know what you want them to do. Remember that they can't read your mind, so you need to tell them what you want them to do. So call to action is super important. This is a digital checklist, and I just, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through it all because I really want you guys to take some time to work through this, and it isn't the worksheet that I passed on to you. Okay. But I really want you guys to remember, like, you need to be offering real and free value to your audience if they're following you on social media. This is just a sample of Instagram, for example, what your Instagram could look like when you're breaking it up and providing different content. You definitely want to have selling in there. You want to have connecting, inspiring, educating, entertaining. How can you ensure that you are putting together all of these pieces for your customers? You will also want to make sure that you're engaging, okay? So engage with other content that you like. And optimizing platforms. I'm sorry, I don't mean to boogie through this. I just want to make sure that everyone is able to get this before. And then I also want to answer your guys' questions. Okay, so I'm going to use Facebook ads as an example because I think that it's probably the most relevant to everyone. So you want to start thinking about, if I'm advertising on Facebook, if that's where your target audience is. So this only applies to you if your target market is on Facebook. So the potential goals could be to move traffic to your website to get them to convert. It could be to get them to submit a lead form directly and make them become a lead. So, you know, collecting their emails, for example, or it could be a lead through a chat bot. So those are kind of the potential goals that you can use for Facebook ads. And then you really want to dig deep into your targeting. If you have an email list, that is over 1,000. If your email list is over 1,000 emails, you can actually upload that into Facebook, and it will use its algorithms to find a similar audience for you, which can be amazing, guys, because those are already pre-selected emails that you have in your database. So use that data if you can. I would say the most important piece when you're thinking about your targeting is interest-based filtering. So making sure to think about, okay, what is my target market going to be interested in? So for example, when we were doing some Facebook marketing we had Manjeet Minhas come from Dragon's Den, we did some paid advertising on Facebook. And one of the biggest interests, obviously, other than like entrepreneurship, startups, blah, 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 was people who watched Dragon's Den, because obviously they probably wanted to see that celebrity come in. So think about that. Think about what people are interested in, and then you really have to start filtering that when you're doing your Facebook ad. So for your ad, the must-haves are visual creative, high resolution, on brand. Your ad copy is super important. I really want you guys to understand that there is a way to do a Facebook ad in a correct way. And this is the way to do it. Okay, so you should always start with something that catches their eye, and more often than not, especially with a Facebook ad, is you want to let your audience pre-qualify themselves. Okay, so you want to ask them a question that will have an implicit yes answer. So are you hungry? Right? That doesn't necessarily have to be it, but something that catches their eye with an implicit yes answer, because if they're not hungry, they're gonna pass by that, and then that saves you your click. Okay, so start to think about that kind of stuff. And then the core values, you know, try to get them to feel some FOMO, or sell them on logic. And then your call to action is really important. This is actually, I did participate in this Facebook ad workshop with this guy, Nicholas. He was amazing. And this is his kind of important tips to creating a Facebook ad. And he actually give us data when he was doing this workshop that showed us that 99.9% of the time, as long as your target market is on Facebook, and as long as you're including all of these elements, then you should be seeing ROI on it. Maybe I will add this image into that document for you guys as well, just so that you have it if you want to use it. Influencer marketing, I'm going to go through real quick. We're getting close to the end there. Okay, so influencers. This can be, I would say, in my research when I was looking into, successful strategies for marketing during COVID-19, I've always been a huge advocate for influencer marketing. But now more than ever, this is an excellent way for you to reach your target market as long as the influencer is in the right context, they have the right reach, and they're able to actually push through what your call to action is. The other thing that you can do if you're on a budget is you can start to think about your current customers that you have and let them be grassroots influencers for them. But remember, you need to ask them to do that. So ask them to share it on social media. Give them referral codes to share with their friends, for example. Give them discounts to share, or create shareable content for them to share. I've had businesses reach out to me before and be like, hey, I'm trying to promote this. Here's a little thing. Do you mind, posting it? And I'm like, sure, why not? If people like you and they care about you, and especially right now when people are really in a giving and helping kind of place, that sometimes can work in your benefit. PR and media. I'm going to skim through this really quickly, but this can also be a good way for you guys to gain some other reach, as well as build your brand awareness. And so essentially, we work with our clients a lot here at the Innovation Cluster to make sure that they are able to promote themselves through the media. But you can do it as well, right? It's all about creating a media list and being able to write a press release, but you can use media relations for so many different things. You can use it to gain public exposure. You can use media outlets to tell your company's story. There's lots of different things that you can communicate with the media, but there's definitely some tips and there's some important things to think about. So when you're engaging with the media, you can engage them through social media, press releases, press conference, media invites, editorials. These are all different things that you can do to engage the media. Some of my tips are, you want to target specific writers. You don't want to target the publication itself, or bloggers, things like that. You definitely need to create a media list, and your subject line when you're sending out a media invite matters, and I'm going to show you guys an example in a second. You want to invest in media relationships as much as you can, right? They're people too, so invest in your relationships with them. And make sure that if you are engaging the media, it has to be relevant and time sensitive. Just sending out basic stuff to them, they don't care, they're busy people, okay? So this is just an example of an innovation cluster release that we sent out. This is from 2017, but we sent out a lot of media releases. Must-haves for your release, you must have this release, which you can see here. You must have that in the body of your email, as well as an attachment, as a Word document and a PDF. A boilerplate is a fancy name for putting what your company is about at the very bottom of the story. And then you want to include contact information, high quality images that they can use, especially because it's much more difficult now for them to get out than it was before. And you really, really want to be relevant and timely, and make sure that you understand people in media, especially more now than ever, are so busy. If you can write the story so that it's easy for them to digest it, rewrite it, and turn it around quickly, then you are winning, okay? So really think about that before you send anything out to the media. And finally, there are a lot of other ideas that I could give you guys for advertising on a budget, but I just wanted to put through those things because I think that they are the most common things that people can use. But obviously, when you're going through your strategy, everything is going to look different to everyone, okay? Because every business is different. So recognizing growth opportunities. I really want you guys to start thinking about understanding that the current landscape that you exist in and where you fit within that landscape. And you need to start to decode what this new normal is. So if you have current customers, you want to start doing primary research, you want to start surveying them, you need to understand, where do I fit within their lives now, and what can I do to be better and show up more? And you also want to identify areas that your business could potentially expand into, okay? Because this is an opportunity as well. If it makes sense for your business and you're able to do it, could I expand, and maybe could I be more relevant if I did do that? Okay, so those are things that you want to think about. You want to create a portfolio of planning for decision making in the face of uncertainty. So if this happens, I'm going to do this. Start thinking about, if different things happen, if this goes on for a month, this is my plan. If this goes on for 6 months, this is my plan. Like, really start to think about these things, guys, because it's super, super important. If you plan now, you will be able to handle it down the road. And then really think about, consumers are experiencing a new way of living. And so how are you going to fit into their new way of living? Because it is very different than what it was. Before I end my presentation, I want to share with you guys a fun little example. And some of you may know this, some of you may not. So in World War II, okay, which, you know, I have heard a couple of times people comparing this to what it was like in World War II. But in World War II, M&Ms actually were patented in 1941 for the process of actually creating the M&Ms. And they were the first, their first big customer was the US Army. So the reason for this was because it allowed for soldiers to actually carry the chocolate in warmer climates without it melting, right? So they realized the opportunity for their candy was that they could have a process that ensured that soldiers could actually carry around these M&Ms and that it wouldn't melt in their pockets or in their hands in warmer tropical climates. So they actually made this only available to in military rations. So pretty cool example of how a product can actually take advantage of an opportunity. And in fact, M&Ms are one of the most popular and long-standing World War II inventions. So pretty cool. I just wanted to pass that on to you guys because I do want you to start thinking more creatively about your business and how you can take advantage of different opportunities within your business. And I want to leave you guys off with be ready, pivot now, okay? Address immediate action items and make sure that you create resiliency within your business. So start to think about a detailed plan to tackle the new normal and all the new consumer habits. You want to think about how your business can reinvent itself and understand how your industry is going to shift, okay? And start to be the leader in making that shift and start to plan different scenarios for your business. You want to be ready. So think about it, okay? You want to create your marketing strategy, which I shared with you today, build your funnels, and then I want everybody right now with me to give yourself a pat on the back. I can see you. Give yourself a pat on the back because you came today and you showed up, okay? And you went through and you learned something new, and you're going to take these new things that you learned that are relevant to you, and you're going to start working on them right now. And I want you guys all to be gentle with yourselves because we are going through something quite large and everyone's feeling it differently. And I just want you to make sure that you're celebrating the small wins because showing up and being here today and participating in this is a win, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Alana, and I hope you guys all enjoyed my super speedy run through of the marketing workshop.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat box now while we wait
to see if anybody does have any questions. I do want to take this opportunity to let everybody know that on Tuesday, the 14th at 12, we're doing a cybersecurity workshop specifically for working from home during COVID-19, and then another one next Thursday, April 16th at 12 p.m. We're also doing a business continuity workshop with Charlena Westby, so specifically having some sort of plan and policy or procedure going forward with your business going into circumstances such as COVID-19. So if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, so there's no such thing as a stupid question, guys. I just want to throw that out there because chances are, if you're thinking about this question, then, you know, the other people that are in here with us are also thinking about it. And I know that it was a lot of information. Oh, I just see Jess came in with her baby. Hi, Rachel. So I really encourage you guys to share your questions because, you know, we're only all here together once, and then you guys are probably going to disperse off into your worlds and your universes. So if you do have a question, go for it.
So Joanne has a question.
Mm.
How do we stand out in our digital marketing when everything is on the internet is so loud?
That's a really good question. Is this Joanne from Mama Soup? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna share this not specific. I'm gonna share this more generally. So this is when you have to be creative and you have to think outside the box. But I would say that right now, more than ever, one of the ways that you can stand out as a brand and as a business is by being yourself and ensuring that you are actually conveying what you are going through as a business owner. I think that is refreshing for a lot of people, especially I'm assuming the majority of people on here are founders or small business owners. And that can be really refreshing for people to actually see the back end of what's actually happening right now for businesses. So I would say right now in the current market, that's a great way to stand out. But it honestly does have to revolve around your strategy. So that might be different for everybody. I hope that answered your question, Joanne. She had a really funny TikTok with her husband. That was a great way of standing out. It was about eating snacks during quarantine.
Okay, the next one is from Cassandra. Would you be, or what would be your first step to expand your business outside of your current network, advertisements, influencer marketing?
So without specifically knowing what your business is it Cassandra? Yeah. I mean, you have to go through your strategy. If you're expanding into new markets, I don't know if this means you are creating a new product or a new service. It's difficult for me to answer a question like that when I don't totally know what it is that you're doing. You can definitely, if you guys want, send me a email. My email is rterry@innovationcluster.ca. And it's hard for me to answer questions like that if I don't specifically know what's going on in your business. That's why and my clients know this too, like sometimes they'll ask me questions and I'll be like, I have to see your marketing plan because I can't give you, you know, the correct tactics or strategies unless I understand your target market. But I would say that if you are expanding into a different market or if you're launching a new product or service, once you've created your strategy, you just need to do it. You need to start testing, and it doesn't matter if it's perfect yet. You just have to start working on it because the longer you wait, the further behind you're going to be. I hope that answers the question. Please send me an email.
The next one is, as someone who has literally had to pivot her entire business, would offering a discount or coupon to my current client list potential be a bonus for me to keep some revenue coming in with different product and services?
Yes. I think the short answer to that is yes. Without knowing your business and kind of what you're going through right now, I think that can be an excellent option if you are delivering, new products and services. Definitely, if you already have a current customer base, you might as well start with them while you start to build your awareness in the new market.
Okay, the next one comes from Jess and Rachel. How do you draw the line between giving away too much for free and still being profitable?
That is such a good question. Good question, Jess. There is a really, really fine line there, and that is something that you really have to think about. So this is the way that I want you to think about it, and I want everybody to apply this. So when it comes to discounts, free trials, things like that, and I understand actually where Jess is coming from, because she's a client of ours. But essentially, if you are doing any kind of freebies, you need to start to calculate that into your marketing costs and ensure that you are getting a return on investment for that. So if you're doing, for example, like in Jess's case, I think she's referring to, her 2-week free trial, I think that she has going on right now. So think about, okay, what is that costing me per person to actually run that free trial? And then am I going to get a return on investment? Is that customer going to, over their lifetime, pay me back for that free trial, right? So that's why marketing planning and building your strategy is so important, because you have to start thinking about not only, okay, I'm paying for this advertising campaign, but if I'm giving freebies, if I'm getting discounts, am I building that into my cash flow and my projections? And am I understanding, okay, if I'm spending $100 on freebies, am I getting a return on my investment? Those are things that you want to think about. I hope that answered your question, Jess. But she can always chat with me later if she wants to about it. Client.
So I don't have any other ones. Does anybody else have anything? Oh, there's one. Okay, from Deanna. I am launching a new business called the Self-Discovery Center, which offers workshops, courses, and group coaching to empower women in changing their self-limiting benefit or beliefs so they change their self-sabotaging behaviors. My question is related to Instagram hashtags. I am a newbie, and what is the best Peterborough tags to teach women in this area?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, congratulations, Deanna, I think it was, on what you're working on. That's really, oh, I see you waving. Hi. That's really exciting. I'm always excited to hear about new businesses that are popping up all over the place. So yeah, I mean, when you are starting a new business, it is all about awareness. Probably a good thing that you threw in what the name of your business was in that question, because now all these people in here know what it is that you're working on. Atta girl. Obviously, there's a lot of roots things that I shared with you today that I think that you can implement. You can nod yes or no. Do you already have a strategy? So what I would recommend is definitely start with a strategy piece, because I kind of got an idea of what your target market was, but it sounds like you might need to flesh that out a little bit more. And then absolutely, if you can find groups that you can get involved with, word of mouth for the type of business that you're working on is, I think, going to be huge for you. So especially if you're working with women, like, word of mouth is huge. So I would definitely think about that strategy and how you can push that through your business. I hope that answers your question. If you guys do have more specific questions too, you can send me an email. It's rterry@innovationcluster.ca.
Okay. The next one is from Kathy. My business is rag rug crafting. Would doing small videos on my Facebook page, could I promote online classes in those videos?
Ooh, Kathy, I think I see you. Can you wave? Yeah, I see you. Okay. That sounds awesome. Yes, videos are great. I think that's, one tool that actually, or tactic that Home Depot uses a lot, you can do some research into this, is they do a lot of how-to videos, and sometimes they just do, you know, quick little samples. And if you are starting to maybe do more workshops and stuff like that online, you can always do some as like teasers, can definitely help with your marketing to get people interested. I would do some research into what Home Depot does, because they actually do it very successfully. The other thing you can start to think about, and I don't know if you do this or not, it's rug making, yeah? Yeah, cool. What you can do is you can think about your upsell. Maybe it is that you provide, you know, a paid workshop, and people have to purchase all of the tools and supplies from you in order to make that rug. So I don't know, thinking about things like that. I would start with your strategy, start with getting your target market together. Hi. And going from there.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
I think this is going to be the last question. From Rob. I had advertised with a cancer campaign before while participating and handed out coupons to donate to the cancer program with no return. I have took up boxing and promoted it through my business again, participating, and got at least a dozen full-time good customers from it. How can you know what advertisement you go with will be beneficial for your business?
That's a good question. I don't know if I fully understood, and this is the problem with chat. Sometimes it's just hard to kind of understand the question, but so from what I'm gathering from your question, Rob, I think was the name, is that you are trying to understand what advertisement makes sense. And this is where you have to take bias out completely and rely, if you're talking, for example, about digital advertising, you really want to think about, okay, how can I remove bias and start to focus on my analytics and where my analytics are pointing me. One thing that's really important, like for example, I gave you guys the example of Facebook advertising and Facebook ads, is you really want to monitor those ads. For example, you could have an ad running for a week, let's say, and let's say you set your limit, you know, it doesn't have to be high, it can be like $5 a day, and you monitor that over a week, and maybe you have different, once you guys get into running Facebook ads, this will come a lot more natural, and this might sound like gibberish, but I encourage you to go in and play with it. But when you're starting to run your Facebook ads, you'll notice they have ad sets, and you can input different images to pop up, and you can see which images perform better. You can also input, you know, different copy, and you can iterate this over time based on the data that you see happening in the back end. So for those of you that haven't done a lot of digital advertising before, a lot of this might sound like gibberish right now, what I'm saying. But what I recommend you do, because it's not going to hurt you to just go in, if it fits into your strategy, your target market's there, go into the back end and start playing with their ads manager and start getting to know it and start becoming familiar with it. Because I'm telling you, when I add that piece that I got from that Facebook ads marketing workshop that I was in, he did say, as long as you are following this 99.9% of the time, as long as your audience is correct and you've targeted the right audience on Facebook, then it should work. So I'm going to just put that in the document that I shared with you guys as well once I get out of here. But I hope that answers your question, Rob. I hope.
If you
Thanks,
do have any more questions, don't forget to email Rose. Again, there is a survey that should have been sent out right now, actually, to you guys. Let us know what you thought of the workshop. We have 2 workshops next week on cybersecurity and business continuity. We do have workshops usually twice every week going forward, so make sure to stay tuned to our social media for all those updates. Any final words, Rose?
No, just please make sure that you fill out that survey as best as possible so that we can improve this for next time. And you can always tag us in your social if you enjoyed this workshop today.